She was kidnapped by the most feared man in Texas. But what she didn't know was that her captor's right hand, the man assigned to watch her, was the same orphan boy she once loved. And he had a choice to make: loyalty or love. In the heart of Los Angeles, a well-established family, the Hudsons, were known not just for their wealth, but for their compassion. Richard Hudson, a respected real estate mogul, and his wife, Catherine Hudson, a renowned child psychologist, had only one daughter, Mia. Raised in love, kindness, and privilege, Mia grew up with a strong sense of empathy and responsibility. From a young age, Mia's weekends were different from those of most privileged kids. Instead of spending her time at the mall or poolside parties, she would accompany her parents to the New Horizon Orphanage, a small, underfunded home for abandoned children. Catherine volunteered as a counselor, and Richard helped sponsor upgrades and renovations. But for Mia, the trips meant one thing: seeing Henry. Henry was different from the other kids at the orphanage. Dark-skinned, quiet, and observant, he stood out with his intense eyes and soft demeanor. While the other children played together, Henry often sat under a tree with a tattered book, flipping its pages slowly. Mia was drawn to him from the moment they met. Despite their differences, they became inseparable during her visits. She brought him gifts, books, toys, and even a handmade bracelet he wore proudly. For Henry, Mia was the light in a world that had given him little. Mia and Henry weren't just children who played together. They had a bond that went beyond words. But what made their friendship special was the spot they called the Secret Corner, a little wooden bench behind the orphanage chapel where they carved their names into the wood. Henry had smiled, hopeful, the kind of smile only a child with nothing to hold on to could wear. But fate is cruel to the innocent. One day, Mia's parents broke the news. They were relocating to Texas due to Richard's expanding business empire. Mia was devastated. She clutched the photo she'd taken with Henry. She pleaded with her parents they should visit the orphanage one last time before they leave. During their last meeting, Mia whispered into Henry's ears, "We'll meet again. And you'll be more than a boy from the orphanage. You'll be someone the world will respect." A memento she vowed never to lose. At the orphanage, Henry waited by the gates for weeks, hoping to see her again, but she never came. Life diverged drastically for both of them. Henry's life took a dark turn when he was adopted by a man named Don Simon. Don Simon had a way of smiling that never reached his eyes. When Henry was just 10, newly adopted and afraid, Don Simon knelt beside him, handing him a leather jacket. "You're not a street boy anymore, son," he said, resting a firm hand on Henry's shoulder. "You're mine now, and I'll make you stronger than the world ever allowed you to be." That night, Henry was fed steak for the first time, given toys and a room filled with everything an orphan would dream of. But weeks later, the tests began. Late-night errands, lockpicking drills, learning how to lie, intimidate, and break bones. "The world only respects power," Don would say, "and you're going to be the most feared man in it." Don was a wealthy businessman with investments in logistics and shipping. In reality, he was a ruthless criminal mastermind who used his legitimate businesses to mask a sprawling underground empire. Don saw potential in Henry, not as a son, but as a weapon. Under Don's watch, Henry, renamed Don Jr., was trained in combat, strategy, and control. He was raised not with love, but with manipulation. Don shaped him into a cold, calculated enforcer. His loyalty to Don was built on twisted gratitude. After all, Don had rescued him from the orphanage. Meanwhile, in Texas, Mia blossomed into a strong, intelligent woman. She studied business administration and took over parts of her father's company, Hudson Real Estate Group, helping it expand nationally. She maintained her heart of gold and often donated to orphanages and homes for displaced children. But deep down, she always felt a missing piece: Henry. She never forgot him. One day, 20 years after their last meeting, Mia visited New Horizon Orphanage in Los Angeles while on a business trip. She asked about Henry, hoping for a miracle, but the records were incomplete. He had been adopted long ago and no names were left behind. Disappointed but not broken, Mia whispered under her breath, "Henry, wherever you are, I hope you're happy." Mia never truly gave up searching. Even as she became a respected entrepreneur in Texas, a part of her heart always lingered in Los Angeles. She contacted the orphanage multiple times, requested access to old records, and even hired a private investigator. But every trail went cold. The only constant in her efforts was the photo she kept in her wallet, worn and soft from being handled so often. Sometimes at night, she'd stare at it and whisper, "I know you're out there somewhere, Henry. I hope you're safe. I hope life didn't turn you into someone you're not." Back in Texas, trouble was brewing. Don Simon had relocated to the state and through shady deals began acquiring properties illegally, clashing with Richard Hudson's business operations. A bitter rivalry formed, one driven by power, territory. Richard one day went as far to report Don Simon to the police that Don Simon is involved in illegal activities. Some of Don Simon men were caught, but the police couldn't trace the illegal activities to Don Simon. Because he had a clean records, Don Simon lost a lot of money due to this, and he said to himself, he will revenge, in a way that will cause Richard a lot of pain. Don Simon knew hurting Richard's business wouldn't be enough. He wanted something more personal. One night, his men abducted Mia. 2 days before the kidnapping, Mia had walked into a high-end restaurant to close a business deal. At a nearby table sat Don Jr. in a sharp black suit, overseeing one of Don Simon's clean operations. Their eyes met for a brief second. Mia's heart skipped. Something about the man's face felt familiar. Henry looked at her too long, longer than he usually would. Something pulled at him, but he shook it off. Just another client, he muttered to himself. That was the moment. That was fate offering a chance. But neither of them realized it. Not yet. After Mia was abducted, she was blindfolded and taken to an undisclosed location. A lavish but cold estate in Las Vegas. Her captor? Don Jr. Mia didn't recognize him at first. Gone was the gentle boy from her memories. Now stood a tall, intimidating man with piercing eyes. But Henry recognized her the moment he saw a photo fall from her pocket. The same photo he had once taken with Mia as children. Something cracked inside him. Henry picked up the worn photo from the ground, his breath catching in his throat. The edges were frayed, but the image was clear. 2 kids, smiling like the world hadn't hurt them yet. His eyes locked onto his own young face, standing beside the only person who had ever shown him true kindness. His chest tightened. Memories came flooding back. Her laugh, their secret spot, the day she cried because she didn't want to leave him. Mia, he whispered as if saying her name would break a curse. For the first time in years, Don Jr. felt like Henry again. And with that feeling came a war inside him. Loyalty to the man who had made him powerful, or the girl who had once made him feel human. As the days passed, he watched Mia closely. Her spirit, her words, her eyes, they were the same. He stayed up at night replaying memories. She spoke with such calm, such trust, even when she didn't know who he was. And then, he decided to see if it was actually Mia. One night when Don Simon loyal men were all asleep, he sneaked into where Mia is being held. He whispered her name, Mia. She felt the voice was familiar. She whispered, "Who are you?" She wanted to scream, but he covered her mouth. "Don't scream. I am not here to hurt you." He unblindfolded her and then revealed his identity, removing the mask on his face. Mia's eyes welled with tears. They embraced like 2 broken pieces finally finding their place. But danger loomed. Don Jr., Henry, didn't know that when he was sneaking into where Mia was held, one of Don Simon's loyal men, James, Don Jr., Henry, greatest rivals since being adopted by Don Simon, was watching him and recording everything he and Mia was discussing. James sent the video to Don Simon. The next day, Don Simon ordered Henry to eliminate her. Faced with a choice between the man who raised him and the girl who once gave him hope, Henry chose Mia. Don Simon knew that he will choose Mia. When Henry was adopted by Don Simon, every night Don Simon always hear Henry whispering Mia name. He knew he would pick Mia, so he ordered James to kill them both, if Henry failed to kill Mia. Henry heard the call, and he devised a plan. One night, with stealth, he opened the door room where Mia is being held. He helped Mia escape on their way out. Don's men saw him. Immediately, they rushed into an Audi car nearby. Don's men pursued them across cities, shooting at them. Their car broke down in a nearby farm. Henry and Mia came out of the car and ran into the farm. Don's men pursued them into the farm, and in a violent confrontation, Henry took them down, one by one. When he thought he has taken down all the men, more men came, which resulted to gunfire. Henry and Mia ran into the farm barn. They kept shooting at them while Henry shoot back. The gunfire stopped. Smoke filled everywhere. Henry collapsed to the floor, his side bleeding heavily. He coughed, blood trickling from the corner of his mouth. Mia ran to him, eyes wide with panic. "Henry, stay with me." He tried to push her away. "Go. They're coming. Leave me." "No," she cried, tearing her jacket to stop the bleeding. "You saved me. Now it's my turn." She dragged him into a hidden crawl space behind the wall, breath heavy, tears streaking her face. She whispered softly, "You're not alone anymore. I'm here." The men were closing in on them. The farm band owner called police. Immediately, the men heard the sound of sirens, then ran away immediately. That night, they didn't just escape. They escaped the pain that had held them prisoner for 2 decades. Mia, desperate to save him, used her connections to get medical help. Henry was arrested initially, but during the investigation, he provided critical information and evidence that led to Don Simon's empire crumbling. Don was arrested in a massive sting operation that made national headlines. The trial was broadcast nationwide. Don Simon was charged with over 30 counts of organized crime, arms trafficking, and kidnapping. But the highlight of the trial was Henry's testimony, raw, vulnerable, and heartbreaking. "He took me when I was just a boy," Henry said to the judge. "He raised me with fists, not love. But the only thing that saved me was a girl who once believed I could be more." Mia sat in the courtroom, eyes glistening, her hand over her heart. Henry received a full pardon, not only for aiding in the case, but for his own redemption. The courts acknowledged that he was a victim turned survivor. 6 months later, on a beachside garden in Texas, they exchanged vows. "You found me in the dark," Henry whispered, "and you gave me light." Mia smiled. "We found each other, Henry, and this time we're not letting go." Few weeks after their marriage, they opened a new orphanage in Texas, the Horizon Home, named after the place where their story began. Henry dedicated his life to protecting children like him, ensuring no one would ever be lost the way he was.